bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down here. It's a Wednesday. It's a match day for Atlanta United facing Chattanooga FC tonight in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup Round 3 in Kennesaw. Yes, John, what are we going to see tonight? Oh, jeez. I try to feed you your line and you're not ready.
Well, I mean, other than
what are we going to see tonight?
Midweek action at the Fraction, sir.
John, when you have a line, just hit it.
Okay.
You didn't need the midweek. What are we going to see tonight, John Nelson?
Action at the Fraction, Jason Longshore.
Jeez.
How about that?
Yes, that's what we're going to see tonight.
Okay.
Chattanooga FC bringing a number of fans down for this one. They've got one section full. They might have a second section full. They've at least sold tickets in it. Believe there are still a few tickets available. I don't think there's very many. If you want to get in on the action, you should get there now. We'll be on the radio at 7 o'clock with pregame coverage, and we'll have an hour of the full-time report afterwards. So normal coverage for the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup on 92.9 The Game and on the Odyssey app and on the Atlanta United app. We saw 3 cup sets last night. We'll talk about those. We saw Manchester United get humiliated by Liverpool, and we'll talk about the epic proportions of the humiliation. But we had some breaking information drop this morning, and it's something that if you listen to yesterday's show, it came up in the conversation. You know, there's times where I get things wrong, and I'll put my hand up and say that I did. When we were talking about coaches who could be next on the hot seat, I didn't think the hot seat would explode today, but Hernan Lasada and DC United, he's out, according to reports. First with Pablo Maurer of The Athletic, Stephen Goff has confirmed it. Club spokesperson has come out to say, we've been looking at the way the team has performed, and there have been a lot of challenges. Chad Ashton will take over on an interim basis. But you got this information first yesterday on the show. And look, I mean, I thought he was in trouble. I've watched this team lately because we saw them firsthand not that long ago and watched what they had been doing before and since, and honestly all season long. And they've got 2 wins, and neither one were convincing. One required a 198th minute penalty, it seemed like, in Cincinnati, where Cincinnati was the better team in week 2, and a 3-0 win over Charlotte in their first ever game that was not all that convincing. Go back to last season where DC could have been in the playoffs and it all fell apart late, and it has not been good for Hernan Lasada for a while now. And they haven't progressed, and that was the number one thing I said yesterday, was they just have not progressed. They've gotten worse, not better. And when you're into year 2, and you have the core of that team back. Now, you can look at who's not there, whatever. You can look at some of the injuries. Yes. You've had a group of players together for a minute, and they are not improving. They did win last night in the Open Cup 3-0. I'm assuming that Hernan Lasada was there. I don't remember seeing him on the touchline during our watch-along. It was miserable weather, kind of a bad way to go out if you're going to have to coach your last game with the team. And did they wait till after the game to tell him? Did they tell him before? I don't know. It's weird. But they win 3-0 in that one. Again, not all that convincing. It took a while to break down Flower City Union, who's not a good team in NISA right now. And the news comes out this morning that Lasada's out. What direction does DC go? Well, you're kind of back to the same conversation that we had yesterday about San Jose. DC did a similar thing. They had an idea. They were won over by a coach with a plan, with a idea of what he wants to do. Somebody who had finished his career as a player at Beerschot in Belgium, took over as a coach, got them promoted. Okay. We talked about their numbers coming in from Belgium, and they were very score 5, give up 6, all over the map in terms of results. But he got them promoted. He gets the job here. We've heard about the training sessions and the training camp last year, and I think Julian Gressel said he lost like 7 to 10 pounds. And It's intense, and I've heard it compared to SWAT team training and all these different things. Okay, that's good. On the field, I haven't seen that identity shine through just yet. Not consistently, anyway. They press, but do they? One of the conversations I had with Jeff Lorenowitz, because we called the game for radio up there, they felt like they were an in-between kind of team. And the reason I say that is they press, but how much? They play direct, but how much? They're like 50% possession, which I don't think is a good place to be, because you're kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. They're not committed to playing long and just pressing and chasing. They're not committed to building up the play. They're kind of just, You left out Edison Flores a lot. He had some injuries, but he was your real playmaker. It felt like young guys with little experience, and I'm not talking the academy guys, were getting opportunities. And I like Sofian Jafal, but why didn't you have somebody better than a rookie out of Oregon State in that holding midfield? And you did play Drew Skundrich a lot last year, and now he was pushed to the side, and it was Jafal. And we've seen these other guys get games immediately. Donovan Pines was getting put to the bench, which I'd never understood at all. Lasada got really deep into the idea of playing Andy Nahar as a right center back and letting him get forward. If you're looking for an identity and a tactical thing about DC and who they are, that was probably it. And that's not an identity for a team. That's a tactic. That's a thing that you do to try to exploit something, or he's just the best option you have in that position. It's not a philosophy. It's not an identity. And that's really all I got when I look back at DC. So Lasada's out. We're back to the San Jose question. What's your identity going to be? DC's not going to spend a ton of money either. Are we having that conversation this morning that whoever the owners of DC United should sell because the coach didn't work out? Are we going to go there? We did about San Jose. It's not purely on that. Like, yeah, it of course, like we said yesterday, it's great when you can spend more money and you can, you can take bigger chances, and if they don't hit, you can fix them because you got the money to do that. I mean, look at what Chelsea's been able to do over the years. Roman Abramovich, able to take a loss, fine with taking a loss, did take a loss, put his own money into it, signed a guy, it didn't work. All right, fine, let's sell him, get something back for him, which they did a pretty good job of, and let's go buy somebody else. MLS, you can't do that as well, but some teams have more options to do it than others. San Jose doesn't. DC doesn't. And now they're in that same boat. What's your identity going to be? What is DC United's identity going to be? Because Hernan Lasada was brought in to define that identity. And he was not seen in the same way as Matias Almeida. As well, he's way out here in terms of other coaches. Lasada was a Bielsa disciple. Lasada was seen as something that you could bring in and you could replicate. Now what? What direction do you go? That's going to have to be the question for DC United. It doesn't need to be distracted by, well, it's because they don't spend money. No, we've known they don't spend money. We need the same thing about San Jose. What direction are you going now, DC United? If you're not going to spend crazy money, although you found it when you wanted to bring in Wayne Rooney, so maybe you can if you want to. Just saying. What is your team going to be? Because we are past the days in Major League Soccer. And we've talked about this all year long. It feels like the league has really taken a jump in terms of quality and parity this year. We're past the days that you can just go sign exciting young coach with a great binder or trapper keeper or whatever he brings into the meeting. You're past the days where you can go make big signing of former great international here, and your team has an identity at that point. It didn't really, but that was at least something. You're past those days that you can do that and be successful. You got to have a plan. And San Jose with Almeida, he was there for a little while. Shouldn't have been here coming into this year. That's a whole different conversation. Lasada, he didn't even make it to halfway year 2. Now, I'm not saying he should have kept his job because they were going downhill fast. Brought that up yesterday. But that's a hard U-turn pretty quickly. I'm assuming it's a U-turn because I don't think you're going to keep doing what he was doing. What's the conversation going to be about this one? I'm curious to see because DC United was the first super club in this league. They were the first team that had an identity. It wasn't the glitz and glamour of the LA Galaxy. It was what we saw with Marco Echeverri. It was Jaime Moreno. It was at the very beginning guys like John Harkes and Tony Sane. It's turned into the second wave of the developing guys. They were really the first ones. Andy Nahar and Bill Hamid coming through the DC Academy, creating your own stars. The Ben Olsen years, as a player and as a coach. Ben Olsen showed more tactically, especially more variety than what we've seen over the last 2 years. And it was time for Olsen to go. Don't get me wrong. It did run its course. And he's another guy who didn't really get a lot of support in terms of consistent talent to work with. It was all over the map in what they would give him. Sometimes he's having to go to the scrap heap to get guys off the waiver wire. Sometimes they're actually giving him, guys like Wayne Rooney. It's all over the map. So I don't know. I don't know what DC is anymore. They're not a super club. They're not a top club in this league. They're in the Eastern Conference where you got teams that you say Philadelphia, you think gritty, you think pressing, you think, they're going to make you suffer through 90 minutes and more. You think Red Bulls, a lot of the same things. You think Atlanta, technique, attacking talent. They can hurt you off the dribble. They can hurt you in the combinations. You know what you're going to face when you're dealing with that team. You look at NYC, Tati Castellanos. You're looking at all the talent that NYC has acquired. You're looking at New England, one of your former coaches in Bruce Arena, if you're DC United. And you're looking at a bunch of veterans who know their way around this league and have fallen on some hard times, but they were the best team in the league last year. You're looking up at all of that. And you look at Orlando. Orlando's got more identity than DC with Oscar Pereja. You look at Columbus, Caleb Porter. You know what he wants to do. Cincinnati's on their way towards identity with Pat Noonan. Toronto with Bob Bradley. Montreal with Wilfred Nancy. I mean, that's like the whole conference. And you're DC United, and you move on from Olsen. You go in a completely different direction. You don't even get through year 2 with Lasada. Now you're moving on. It had fizzled big time this season, where they've been outplayed in every game but the Open Cup game, I think. The Charlotte game's probably a little more 50-50. I'll give DC that one. Okay, they've been outplayed in every game since the Charlotte game. Whew. What's next? I have no idea. I have no idea what direction to go. And you've got 2 teams now that went down the... I don't know if this is a fair term, John, but I'm going to throw it out there. You went down the more of the cult of personality road than the club identity road with Matias Almeida and Hernan Lasada. 2 individuals who have come out and talked about how they see the game and what they do. You went down those roads and now you've moved on. So what do you have left out of it? I don't know if you really have much. And both clubs have to decide what direction they're going now. And there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on DC. And honestly, I think it's a harder road for them to get back to competitiveness in the East.
So that is one of your first phone calls to Greenville, South Carolina?
It should be, but I don't know what's going on with John Harkes. I mean, John Harkes was only in DC for 3 years. First off, it gets blown up a lot over time, and he was only there the first 3 years of the club. He was then moved when you started to get into salary cap issues, which they've been going on from day one in this league. DC built a good team. They had guys that outperformed their initial deals. You had to start moving guys because you were getting over the cap. Harks was one. Raul Diaz-Arce was one. They moved guys on. So Harks was only there for 3 years. He has been treated as a club legend, as he should. I think he's shown you at first at Cincinnati in year one, and then they went down before they came back up a little bit. And he's shown you in Greenville that he is a good coach. Do you go down that road? I don't know. They should at least talk to him. It would be smart to. I don't know if they will, but that's one call they should make. I don't know if he's the answer. Sorry, Greenville Triumph, but I mean, you knew this as you have a guy like John Harks. He's going to get attention at some point from bigger teams, and he should. He's shown what he can do at that level. You know, I mean, look, if he beats Charlotte tonight in the Open Cup, that first call could be a congratulatory call out of our nation's capital. Be a smart move for them. At least give them a personality to build around. The question, though, shouldn't be going back to cult of personality kind of hires. The question should be, we are a blank slate for you to carve your identity for what you see this club as. Here's the chisel. We are the rock. What are you going to make of DC United? You can't hire somebody just because they won games for you in the past as a player, just because they've won games at a lower division. I don't think that works anymore at this point in this league. You've got to go hire somebody who comes in and says, this is what I want my teams to look like. This is what I want the academy to look like. This is the kind of player that I prioritize. I know you're not going to go out and compete for Chicharito and Carlos Vela and Thiago Almada in terms of transfer fees. That's fine. This is what I want. This is what I want this club to be. That's what you got to start looking at. Call a guy like John Harks, absolutely, but he's got to give you the answers you want in those questions. That's what you've got to hire now in this league to be successful, in my opinion.
Who else might be on your speed dial? If you had,
it's not names though, John. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not about like going to a speed dial. They have to really dig deep. The same as San Jose. It's the same thing we talked about yesterday. It's not about, I'm going to hit my 5 favorites on my speed dial. No, it's the club has to create their vision and mission too. The club has to say what we want to be. And then we got to find somebody who's in alignment with that. This can't be just go get a name. Mentioned Eric Winaldo. Talked about John Harks with DC. 2 guys who are legends in the game in this country. 2 guys who are very smart soccer guys. Even with that being said, being a legend doesn't guarantee you success in this league anymore. And it especially doesn't guarantee you success when you're at a San Jose or a DC. If you are a legend walking in the door to a club that's going to spend a lot of money, well, then you're going to have more talent and it's a little bit easier road for you potentially, although you get issues with that too. More money, more problems, right? So with San Jose and DC, though, it's not good enough to just be Eric Winaldo or John Harks. It has to be, this is what we want. This is what we're asking you to do. Within that construct, what do you want? What are you going to do with this club? What are you going to do? And not just with the first team. What are you going to do for this club? When we describe what a John Harks or an Eric Winaldo team looks like, what does it look like? Tell us that so we can have our U17s do that. Again, not exactly, but from a broad perspective. That's what it's got to be. It's not about a speed dial anymore. Not for this level of club. It can be for your bigger clubs, yes. And even then, you're running risks, but it can be. For these clubs, you got to get the philosophy right. So I have no idea. I don't have a speed dial of names that they should hire. That's not what they should be looking at. John Harkes, with his relationship with the club, because I think he has a good one, is somebody they should talk to. No question, because he's had success. But you got to get the answers to the questions, the important questions, in the way you want. And if you don't, that's fine. Shake hands and don't go that direction. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean somebody's bad if they were wanting to coach in a different way, or if they're wanting to have their teams play in a different way. But what does San Jose, what are their stakeholders? What do they want their team to look like? What does DC want their team to look like? Because both went down this, let's follow this guy, let's follow the Pied Piper. And it, well, hasn't worked, has it? So are you going to continue to follow that idea and somebody else carrying the flag? I don't, San Jose's not, from what Chris Leach said. We don't know yet with DC. I don't think so. It hasn't proven to be successful. So then what? What do you want your club to stand for on the field? It's not as simple anymore as plug and play. It's not as simple as scroll down on my formation list, scroll down on my tactics list. Let me set this up like a FIFA video game. That's not going to get you anywhere in this league anymore. You got to go top to bottom. You got to have an identity. I don't know what it is for DC. And they got to answer that question first before they can even start thinking about talking to people other than somebody like a club legend like John Harkes, who 3 years on the field, yeah, but he's been treated by the club as a legend. They probably a few others in there that they should talk to in this realm. Okay. Maybe he's part of the decision-making process. Maybe he's part of defining what DC United is. Maybe he is a coaching candidate. All of that's possible. But they got to get back to the heart of it here and figure out who they are. Because I don't know. I don't know who San Jose is either. And until they can answer that question, they can't make a hire that's going to work.
And I will readily admit that my first thought with DC was Greenville on a couple of different fronts. One, yes, because of John Harkes with the previous relationship with DC United, being a club legend and all that, but someone who has taken that blank slate with a franchise in USL League One and in fairly short order has turned them into someone that is chasing after championships consistently in that league. And so that was why one of my first thoughts was,
I know, but John, you're missing my point. It's not just about he chased championships in a different league with a different level. How did he chase the championships? That's what I've been banging on for 2 days now. How? He did. Okay, Greenville has one of the better rosters in USL League One. DC United will not have that. How? What does he believe in on the field? Does that fit what DC believes in as a leadership team, as an ownership group, as Lucy Rushton, general manager? Does that fit? Because just because he's won in Greenville, but if he's won a different way than DC wants to build a team, that's never going to work. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
That's never going to work. It's not just that he won somewhere. Hernan Lasada got Beershot promoted. That's not easy. Matias Almeida won the CONCACAF Champions League. Yeah. People win stuff. But at this point, the question for San Jose and DC has to be, what are we? What's our identity? Because you went down this path with Almeida and Lasada that hasn't worked. And it's a pretty severe, closed-off path. It's not an easy one for somebody to come in and build upon. And San Jose's already said, we're not building on it. It's done. We're closing the gates. We're blocking that path. Filling it in with concrete, whatever. We don't know yet from DC, but you've got to figure out who you are as a club. Atlanta United has an identity, and I know people say that they don't, and I'm sorry, I think you're sticking your head in the sand or wanting to further a narrative. Atlanta United, you look at the players they've signed, you look at the broad sense of how they have played from day one, and they have an identity. Managers can come in and put their stamp on that identity. It's not rigid. But when I see a player through the Atlanta United Academy, I'm like, yeah, that's an Atlanta United player. When I see a player in another league, I'm like, yeah, that's an Atlanta United potential player. Like, I know what the profile looks like. I have no idea what it is for DC or San Jose. And that's got to change. And if it doesn't, then, well, you gotta get lucky with the right guy. You gotta hope that he is somebody who can come in and be a great man manager, and get the most out of players, because then you're down to individual stuff. You can't then really focus on philosophy and what happens in that. And you're looking for those kinds of things. And when you're a club like San Jose or DC and you're not going to spend to get the best individuals, I don't know if that works. I just don't know if it works. So, I mean, I'm with you. Harks has done a good job in Greenville. Absolutely. He should be in consideration for jobs. But to get the job, his philosophy, his idea, his way of feeling the game, what's in his blood about the game and how it should be played, that has to be in alignment with the club that is talking to him. If it's not, you're going to be looking at the exit door faster. It has to be in alignment. And I don't know what the alignment is on DC's part right now, because of the fact that you went from Ben Olsen to Aaron Lasada. I mean, you want to get like a complete 180 right there. It is. Now what? I don't know. Maybe you go back to somebody like Ben, who Ben was a great guy to play for. I think players work hard for him in general. Good guy. I like Ben Olsen. I think he actually did some pretty good things. He did some good things against Atlanta United. He made it difficult to play against DC at times. Okay. But did he win ultimately? No. Did he have the resources to? Well, that's a different question, but ultimately it had run its course. But if you're going to go down that road, well, okay, then that's what you were and that's what you are, and all right, whatever. You can win with fewer resources committed in this league if you have an identity. And if you have more resources and you have an identity, you're in better shape. We'll see what they do. Ultimately, though, it's about the identity matching, and it's not just because Harks won at USL League One. He should be considered, but he's got to be in alignment. It's not that he's got to get the right answers on the test, because if they're not in alignment, it's not going to work for him either, and he shouldn't leave. That's the thing about, I think, coaching hires in the sport, is too many times people will take a job that doesn't suit them. Frank de Boer going to Inter, for example. I think he was sold a bill of goods at Crystal Palace, but those didn't suit what he was or what he wanted to do or what the club wanted to do. Shouldn't have taken the Inter job, for sure. Okay. But he took it and it failed. And then that dings his reputation. But also you see clubs hire coaches just because of what they did somewhere else or this or that, and they don't really have an identity, and they're like, here, just write whatever you want, just do whatever you want. And that usually doesn't work. Leeds is an example of how it can work, because they did not have an identity. Not in modern times, anyway. They had lost it. Maybe it's a fair way to put it. They hired Marcelo Bielsa. One of the reasons they hired him was for the identity, for what they wanted to be, what the kind of club they wanted to be, on and off the field, everything. And that's what he believes in. And they were in alignment and had a wonderful time together. And it ran its course. And it was time. They didn't just go hire some name. They didn't go to the scrap heap of Premier League managers and hire a name who's been somewhere else and has done something somewhere else. They went and they hired Jesse Marsh, and they had already identified him. And that's even more credit to them, because Marsh is not exactly like Bielsa. But is he somebody who can follow after Bielsa? Yes, absolutely he is. Take what Bielsa did, tweak it to this direction, go harder here, back off of some of this. Okay. Progression. DC and San Jose has come out and said it without saying it in these words. We're blowing it up. We're not progressing from what Matias Almeida did. DC, I don't know what they do. Do they try to progress off what Lasada did? Lasada didn't put as much of an imprint on that team as Almeida did in San Jose. Or it got lost in translation, or it got lost in the offseason, whatever. Like, they feel very generic right now. And when you're a guy who is like, this is what I believe in, this is how we will play, and your team is generic, something's wrong. And that's what I've been seeing with DC. So what do they do now? It's got to be somebody who either progresses, which I don't think is the answer in this case, or somebody who comes in and creates the identity and the philosophy and who they are and helps them do it. Because, I mean, the club, the stakeholders have to buy in. The owner, the GM, the leaders, the people making this decision, they have to buy in to what the philosophy is going to be. That's why you should probably have it at the club level. And that's why the clubs that do well either have it or recognize they need it and recognize they need to build it. They need it. Are they going to create it, or are they going to hire somebody to create it for them? That's where DC is, and we'll see what they do.
And I think that was what my overarching point was. Is it going to be in outside in or inside out when it comes to philosophy? And that was kind of where I guess I was going with DC. Is it going to be philosophy from DC and finding a new manager that will fit what they're looking for? Or like you said with Leeds, is it going to be someone who comes in with a philosophy that is different from the way it was in the past? And then the front office and DC United on the whole sits there and says, yes, we like this idea that you're bringing to the table. We will do this. I think that was probably what I was getting at. I was trying to figure out which okay. Inside out or outside in.
That's not where I saw it going. That's why I wanted to clarify that. The club has to at least make a decision on, we don't know where we want it to go, and we're going to hire somebody who can create it. Like I said about Bielsa and Leeds. I don't know what they're going to do. I did, when I said it yesterday, and we talked with Dylan Butler about what could be next, who could be next on the hot seat, and I brought up Lasada as somebody that I felt like was, or at least was getting there. I didn't see it today. I mean, I'm not going to take credit for that. I didn't see that coming, but I did see him in trouble, and I saw DC in trouble in general, the way they've been playing lately. And it just has felt like there's a disconnect. It's felt like either the message is getting lost, or the message isn't strong, or the players aren't being convinced by the manager at this point. Whatever it was, it felt like it was disconnected, and it's shown on the field. And I think when you look at the difference of teams that play hard for their manager and believe in the ideas that he's given you, and you look at teams that don't, I think DC was getting pretty hard to the other side, the teams that don't. So time to make a move. That's fine. Maybe a little bit faster than I would have thought from the outside. Okay. But what are you going to do with the move? That's what we'll have to wait and see. What questions, comments we got on the Twitch pitch?
Byrne said that the DC front office isn't convincing either. Getting Taxi Fontas as a DP and paying him $1 million salary show. They don't know what they're doing either.
That's an absolute valid point, because I don't believe in that signing either. I'm surprised at some of the moves they've made. It doesn't seem to fit with where this league is going. Not just even to go sign Taxi Fontas for the amount that they were going to pay him as a designated player and sign him on a free. Then they ponied up 6 figures to get him in, a month and a half, 2 months early? 2.5 months early. Wow. Okay. That feels weird. I'm not going to criticize him for bringing Chris Durkin back. They got him on a pretty good deal for what they had originally gotten for him. That's fine. The Bill Hamid stuff is so far back in the past with leadership that it doesn't apply here. But their transfer strategy has not been convincing at all. And you look at their roster right now, and you look at who their top guys are. Behind Fontas, who's $3.3 million on transfer marked in terms of value, it's Julian Gressel, who's been good at times and not good at times. It's been very hit or miss with Julian at DC. I don't think it was good at all in 2020. It was pretty good last year. It was probably really good last year. And this year it's been up and down. Michael Estrada has not worked. I don't think he's committed to him either. I don't know what that situation is. Estrada went back to Ecuador early before the World Cup qualifiers. He did not play well last night in the Open Cup. Good first day, first game against Charlotte, but Estrada's been all over the map. He's on loan. Edison Flores is somebody who we haven't seen on the field consistently. He has had some injuries, but I think he's a great playmaker. Ola Kamara, you tried to move the whole offseason, and he scored 19 goals last year. Like, none of that made sense. None of that made sense. And then, I mean, the one that is probably the biggest thing for me is the next one on the list, and this is market value, and yeah, I get it. He's 24, and he's still youngish, but Donovan Pines. I think Donovan Pines has a ton of potential in this league, and he's not playing. To play a right back at right center back in Andy Nahar. I don't get it. And beyond that, I mean, you're scrambling around for valued guys. Brad Smith comes over from Seattle. Okay, solid. Steve Birnbaum at 31, your captain. He's been there forever. Solid, no problems at all. Nigel Roberta is a third guy in the forward rotation. I like him. Actually, I do like him, but he's been beating out your other two guys, it seems like. Moses Nyman hasn't played a ton at 18, one of your more promising prospects now after Paredes was sold. Russell Canals is very good in this league at 26 years old. Very good in the holding midfield. Chris Durkin, I think, is a very good holding midfielder in this league at 22. Brendan Hines-Ike, he's next, and he's okay. He's okay. It's not a roster that blows you away. They haven't gone out and found guys here lately with the new front office that you're like, wow, that's a great deal. It's okay. You want the truth? I think San Jose's roster is better. I think San Jose's roster is better for if you're walking in and you're like, all right, they're going to hand me the keys to this thing. I get to do what I want, and I get to pick between these two. I'd rather go to San Jose. I think you can win faster with San Jose.
Other folks on the board, GH was mentioning the fact that we were discussing with Ben Olsen, that you keep Olsen for 9 years, and then you sack Lasada, who had a clear game plan for DC United.
It's new leadership. He said he had a clear game plan. I did not see the clear game plan this year. And that is part of this. If you are going to be that guy, and I have a game plan, and we're going to play my way, and it is about my way, and you put all that out there, and then that becomes muddled, what else do you have? Different leadership, too, and that does have to factor in. You can't say that because they kept Olsen for so long that they should have kept Lasada, because it's different people making that decision. I didn't think Lasada would be back next year. I wasn't sure he would survive this year with what we've seen this year so far. But I would not have kept him 9 years to let him do what they did with Ben Olsen, where you got to go back and look at that time too. When Olsen got the job, they were coming off of a good run. They had been really close. They'd won a supporter shield. They'd won an Open Cup. You had the end of Jaime Moreno's time, but he was still influential a few years prior. You had Luciano Emilio, who was one of the top strikers in the league. Good teams. And it was at the end of that. And they brought in Kurt Analfo, and he didn't even make it through a year. That's been Analfo's MO every place he's been as a head coach. I think he's a great assistant. So Olsen takes over a year after he retired, and it was just a stopgap, and they couldn't find anybody else, and they just promoted Olsen. And I mean, it wasn't the greatest show of faith for him, but he made the most he could out of it. He got them to at least one Eastern Conference final. He did win an Open Cup in a year they were the worst team in the league, which was bizarre in 2013. And when he had resources, he had a competitive team, and when he didn't, they played hard. I mean, that's about all you could get out of that. So I don't hate on Ben Olsen like some do. It was time for him to go. Well, that time came faster for Lasada, because I think the league's changed too. And I think the expectations have changed, but I don't think the club is giving the manager the resources. And it's not purely down to just money. They're not they don't have the identity for what they're doing. They've developed some good players. Kevin Paredes, really good players now at Wolfsburg. I think Moses Nyman could be one who goes to Europe. I think Griffin Yao, possibly. Hopkins, the kid who just came through and signed as a homegrown, he impressed me in his first game. But they're not developing DC United players because I don't know what that it means. They're just developing good players, which is very hit or miss. They've got to nail down what they want to do, and it sounded like that's what they wanted to do with Lasada. Well, it didn't work for him. Do you still want to play in that way? Then hire somebody who's going to do that and build it the right way and build it over time. Just because he had the idea doesn't mean he should stay, because it felt like he lost the team. I'm not going to lie. It looked like they just looked generic. And the whole Ola Kamara thing is one of the more bizarre subplots of the offseason coming into this season, where he's on the block. He's available. No, he's really available. No, please somebody come get him. Well, he scored 19 goals. Why are you trying to like auction him away? No, somebody come get him, please. Like, I don't get it. Yeah, he scored a bunch of penalties, but still, like, what? I don't know. Don't get it. Don't understand. But we'll see. I think it was getting closer to time for Lasada, and look, maybe they got out in front of it. If that's true, good for them. But now what? Because just moving on from somebody isn't the win. The win is what you do next. And we'll see what that's going to be.
Double A is asking, what do we think Pineda saw at DC when he was considering that job before Atlanta United?
Well, he didn't see much, did he? He didn't take it. And I don't think that was an accident. And we talked about that when Pineda took the job here. He's a smart guy. Which club has an identity and which one doesn't? For all the Atlanta United doesn't have an identity, and like, yes, they do. And yes, he knew he was going to get resources. And yes, he knew he's going to have a lot of talented players to work with. And yes, he's walking into a better structured academy situation. And yes, they had a better program overall with the second team and moving guys through. And yes, they had an idea of what they wanted to be as a club and had big ambitions. DC, I don't know what they tried to sell him on other than you're going to get to create all of that stuff, which can be exciting. But do you think you're going to get supported enough to actually do it? You know, you got to remember when Pineda did those interviews, he was an assistant, just like he was when he came to Atlanta. And he was being offered a job for one of the first times. And it was good that he went through the whole process. And it was good that he considered it. And it was good that he did the interviews. It probably gave him a much clearer idea of what he wanted and what he didn't want. And ultimately, he didn't want that job. And he went back to being an assistant in Seattle. And then when Atlanta United came, as Gonzalo said, you don't turn that down. Well, he turned down DC, so that should answer your question.
Question from Jason Nix, wondering about the front office, considering the past tie to Atlanta United. Is Lucy Rushton's job in jeopardy if the season doesn't work out?
I mean, she just got there. That'd be crazy, but, you know, still, like, at some point, yeah, because I don't think Taxi Fontes is a smart signing at all. I never have. I'm until we see him on the field doing something that surprises us. I'm not buying it. I did like the Estrada signing, but maybe that's a disconnect on the coaching side. We'll just have to wait and see. The Ola Kamara situation does fall under this as well, and I don't get it. Selling Paredes was good business, good smart move. I just don't think there's a lot of talent in this team. And as we've said over and over and over again, just because you are a lesser resourced team in Major League Soccer, it doesn't mean you can't build a good team. It means where you can go shopping changes. I have been quite often in my life a lesser resourced person, and I have found good deals in places on things. I had to maybe not go shop at Saks Fifth Avenue, and maybe I had to go to Ross. And I found some good deals over there. I had to put in the work. I had to keep going back. I had to wait and see what was brought in. but I found some stuff I liked. If you're DC or San Jose, well, you better get to Ross and you better keep checking. And you better see what's coming off the truck next time.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's okay. You can still be good. You can still be fine. Catch a deal. But you gotta figure that out. So I don't know if her job's in jeopardy. That's the career though. I mean, everybody's job in pro sports is in jeopardy at some point. It's the nature of the gig. I don't know. I don't know exactly, who she's answering to and what they're asking her to do. And is she doing that or is she not doing that? Or is she not given enough resources or authority to do? I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. So it's hard to judge. But yeah, I don't think it's a very good team. And if the Hernan Lasada move went sour and it was something that she was gung-ho on, then that's going to hurt her standing. It just will. It's how you react to it, though. Getting out in front of it, probably the right decision. But now what? Because you got to get this one right.
Rich Ransom is asking, are we back to foreign coaches not working in MLS again?
No, I don't think it's that at all. I would thoroughly disagree with that. I don't think your coach's quality is down to where they were born and what they're from. If you are from another country, you're going to have to work a little bit harder to understand the American player and adapt to what MLS is. I would totally agree with that. I think Tata Martino did. Go back and look at how the team started in 17 versus how they won MLS Cup in 18. He had to adapt. He had to adapt how his team trained. He had to adapt his training schedules. He had to adapt workloads. He had to adapt aggressiveness on the field. He had to adapt to a lot of things. And he did because he's a smart coach. Frank de Boer adapted in 2019. What he walked into and what he would inherited wasn't working. He adapted. They were the third best team in the regular season. They were in the Eastern Conference Final. He did a pretty good job. If that's a bad job in this league, well, there's a lot of teams that would aspire to doing bad jobs that are doing something not even a bad job. It's not about a foreign coach can't work. It's about getting the right foreign coach. And if you're going to hire a domestic coach, it's not saying that an American coach, a U.S.-based coach, is going to work. You still got to hire the right guy. There's plenty of those who haven't worked over the years. So the country of origin doesn't matter to me. It honestly doesn't. Whichever direction you go brings up other questions to follow up. But in my mind, nobody should get to where they are based off where they're from purely. There's got to be other answers to it, to the questions that are going to be asked. And you better answer them right, or you're not going to get the job, or you're not going to be successful in the job.
Dr. D, I think it's more like you have to be a good coach to work in MLS. You can't just expect crap loads of money to fix your problems.
Well, yeah, and Lasada wasn't that guy, and Almeida wasn't that guy either. That's why the money conversation in San Jose bugged me, because that's a narrative. That's an agenda conversation that comes up every time. Almeida knew what he was walking into. He said he knew what he was walking into. He's a good coach. It didn't work. I think Almeida's a good coach. It didn't work. And then he got kind of angry about it not working, and he went further down the risky road, and it didn't work there either. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll show you. Cade Cowell is a wingback." No, dude, like, chill out. Lasada, it just didn't work. He was seen as a good coach. People loved his ideas. Everybody thought it was great. Didn't work. I think Frank de Boer's a good coach. Didn't work for this group. Didn't work for this team. Didn't work for this roster. Okay, you eventually move on. Doesn't mean he wasn't successful in the short time he was here, but ultimately, move on. Tata Martino's a good coach. Jim Curtin's a good coach. Greg Berhalter was a good coach in this league. I know. Go ahead and start atting me. Bruce Arena's a good coach. They're very different. Greg Vanny's a good coach. But you got good coaches from all over the place. I mentioned a lot of Americans or U.S.-based coaches in that. Yeah, I did. I think Hugo Perez, who has coached here and is now in El Salvador and has heritage in both. He's a good coach. He should be considered by both. Salvadoran coach in D.C., bring it up. That could be huge. That's a more appealing one for him than San Jose, in my opinion, if he gets to do the things that need to be done. We'll see. You do have to be a good coach in this league because, you can't just rely on cash to bail you out of not being a good coach. That is 100% true. But there's good coaches in this league who have not worked too because of various reasons. There's nothing being the right coach at the right place. There's a lot of variables that go into that. You could put Pep Guardiola in some places. He said this. I mean, Pep said this, that you could have put Bielsa at Manchester City and he would have won and probably taken it further. I think Pep was being a little self-deprecating in saying that. But he said that if he went to Leeds, they would have been in the championship. Not everybody fits in every place. But now in this league, what I keep coming back to before we get to Mike Conti is you've got to have an identity as a club or ultimately you won't be successful. If you don't have that identity, you're not going to develop the right players. You're not going to choose the right players, and you won't be successful in the long run. You might hit on something. You might find something that works. Cool. But it's not sustainable without an identity. It's just not. All right, before we get to Mike, John, tell us about our good friends over at Eliminize.
I can certainly do that. QR code over my left shoulder. Those watching on Twitch, odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go, and it is Eliminize Service. Computerizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pets, cigarettes, and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with instead of realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment, we like that these days. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue. Remember, city in the forest, folks. City in the forest. Different than our favorite masking agents because all the masking agent does is mask the odor. It doesn't attack the problem. Eliminize does that all the way down to the molecule with their proven scientific formula. Pricing easy one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million. You come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, and it is their website, eliminize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are talking to them from. So the full website, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH.
Mike Conti joining the show. DC United needs a coach now, Mike.
They do, but I need something first, if you don't
Okay.
mind. You make an opening statement.
Possibly provide that. What is your opening statement, sir?
For everyone watching right now, those of you on the Twitch pitch, those of you who are just kind of lurking and not participating in the Twitch pitch, but maybe you have access to a computer or a phone, could you do me a favor? Could you go on to Twitter just very briefly, just for a second?
That can be dangerous.
And please tweet out the hashtag #ActionAtTheFraction.
There you go.
Please. I don't ask for much from the SDH community. Today would be a really, really good day. I think back to the last time we got #ActionAtTheFraction trending, and the world was such a kind of simpler place then. I think we were getting ready to play I think Motagua, right? We were getting ready to do
that
a
was the
match
last time
at the fraction between Atlanta United and Motagua, and it was just such a fun day. And Atlanta United got that particular hashtag trending all across Twitter. I think beyond even Atlanta. And I'm just wondering if maybe 2 years later we could try to do that again, because it really is a great catchphrase. Not constructed by me, constructed by John Nelson. And it really is, I think, a catchphrase that unites the entire Atlanta soccer community. Jason, in particular, gets very emotional when we talk about the use of #ActionAtTheFraction, how it's kind of galvanized Atlanta United.
Oh, my days.
Thank
right.
you,
so thank you. Thank you, everyone on the Twitch pitch. if maybe you could urge a friend or two to also retweet or, tweet on their own, action at the fraction. I really think we can do this. I really think we can make this the number one trend in Atlanta again, as we did 2 years ago. And what better day to do it, because there will tonight be action at the fraction.
The hashtag action.
At least you know the catchphrase. I tried to set John up to start the show with it, and he failed.
I thought you were talking something formationally, something on the pitch in and of itself.
Yes, John, because I'm going to ask you about formations.
Well, but now that
to
was
start the show. To start the show. No, it was literally the start of the show, Mike. It was.
Well, we're
not going to jump into the formation straight
who
off.
Who cares about formations when all you need is to have action at the? I mean, do you really think we're going to have like superior organization tonight in a match like this? No, it's just going to be all out action at the fraction.
I tried to set him up for it. So I'm saltier than even normal on this.
I can't wait, and we'll get to Lasada.
It's a trademarked phrase, and I know that Jason had his heart in the right place.
Well, we'll get to Lasada in a second, because I have thoughts on that. I'm really kind of surprised and disappointed that's what happened.
I am not at all.
But I would just say this: matches at Kennesaw always have a vibe.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had a full first team experience at Kennesaw since the pandemic. I mean, this is kind of the last return to pre-pandemic life, as far as the Atlanta United experience is concerned. And it's my understanding that there's still more than a few tickets available for this match tonight. And I really, really hope that they can pack the place, because these matches have a different feel. They are very, very fun. The energy in that stadium is always very positive. I think we're going to have an entertaining match tonight. I'm hoping for no cup set like we had last night. There were some cup sets. I'll be curious to see what Atlanta United does as far as selection is concerned. But you can have one of two things tonight. You can have a mostly first-choice group go in there against a Nisa side and come good on these chances that they've missed on over the last couple weeks, and we could potentially have a goleada. Or, we could get maybe a little bit of rotation and a chance to see guys who I think really deserve the support. Players like Robbie Mertz and Aiden McFadden and Eric Centeno. Players who really, really, Mikey Ambrose would be another. Players who really, really deserve the support, because they haven't necessarily had a chance to play in front of a full house at Kennesaw yet. So that's what I'm hoping for tonight, but that's why I'm being a little whimsical today with action at the fraction, because they really are fun games there. They really are fun.
Well, and Mike, there's a certain player that folks are talking about on the Twitch pitch that wears number 36 that could even expand that call out of yours.
I just really hope that Jackson, who has a penchant for removing his shirt at matches played in Kennesaw, might have an undershirt prepared for tonight that has action at the fraction scrawled on it. So at least if he's going to get cautioned for doing that, he's doing it for a good cause.
Then you could have Action Jackson at the fraction.
Actually, help me out, Jason, on the law there. Like, if he were to just pull up his shirt to reveal an undershirt that says action at the fraction, he would not automatically be booked for that, right? He actually has to physically remove the shirt, right?
I think the law, he actually does have to remove it, but a lot of times the referee, if it is something like that, where maybe they might think that he's trying to get a hashtag over, he might give a yellow just out of spite.
Yeah.
Well, when Marcelino scored a couple weeks ago,
that one acceptable.
Yes, because he lifted his shirt to display a slogan.
Yes, but not a hashtag that he was trying to get trending.
Well, you don't know that.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
I mean, it might not have been, but we don't know that, right?
Let me be clear. I will find this referee's information, and I will let them know that if anybody tries to pull up a shirt that gets a hashtag trending, that it should be a yellow.
Okay, we're doing a really, really good job here with the Twitch pitch. I'm looking now at.
All right, I retweeted it. All right, you happy?
Well, no, that's a start. But in order for this to really go, we've got to go all in as an Atlanta United community. And I love Michael Valverde, thank you very much. 4-card, yes, thank you. Brock, Nick Alifi. Nick, I've already heard from someone in France who's eager for action at the fraction, and I translated the hashtag to French, which actually is very simply just action à la fraction. I'm not joking. That is the literal translation. So, Nick, for our Italian viewers, if you would like to maybe translate into Italian, I think anything to kind of keep this going and spread it is a very, very noble cause. And I plan to incorporate it tonight quite a bit. In order to broadcast the match, we have to provide a contractually assured number of reads to ESPN Plus, which we will. I'm kind of thinking 30 to 40 mentions of action at the fraction during the broadcast tonight.
There you go.
All goal calls. If someone's sent off, he's sent off, and therefore there will be no more action at the fraction for him. Like, really, it can be incorporated everywhere. So, Jason, I think you should really strap in for what's going to be a very, very fun and enjoyable night for you.
I think you better warn Miller and have him ready to hit the dump
Miller's
button for
doing
me
it
a few
too.
times.
Yeah, did you know Miller's on Twitter?
I did know Miller's on Twitter.
Yeah, he's on Twitter, and he's spreading the word as well. So everyone's doing just a great job, and I appreciate it. And let's keep it going. Let's keep it going, and let's get back to the number one trend in Atlanta for a day. I really think we can do it.
Mm-hmm. You done?
No, he's just getting warmed up, brother.
You wanted an opening statement.
Yeah.
You done?
Okay, I'm done. The Colonel's getting on me in the Twitch pitch. Really love hearing from that guy.
And yes, Abby, bring your Action at the Fraction T-shirt if you have it to wave to show your support there in the stands at Fifth Third.
Yes, yeah. If Jackson Conway was to remove his jersey and have a Soccer Down Here Action at the Fraction T-shirt, well, then yes, then we're all celebrating that, of course.
Absolutely. Although in Open Cup, how many yellows to a suspension? Is it 2? I have to pull out the old Open Cup handbook. I know it's online somewhere. I don't
remember.
You might want to be a little bit careful about encouraging yellow cards.
No, we never encourage yellow cards. We don't want any of that. We want Jackson Conway to score a hat trick, not get yellow cards. True. We'd love to see that. I would be curious to see what the lineup looks like tonight because Me too. I don't really know what direction you go. You've got some complications that some other MLS teams had last night. We saw a few teams really go different with a lineup. Chicago is the biggest one, and then Ezra Hendrickson backed the bus over his players that he chose, which was odd, but anyway. We saw Miami, I think, go about half and half. Mm-hmm. I think 5 changes, maybe 6 changes. They got the win. We saw Columbus go very different with their lineup. RSL's already said they're going to go very different with their lineup tonight. LA, not so much. Galaxy, we're not completely first choice, which is expected in a cup game. I mean, I don't think there is an expectation that it is your regular best 11 every time in a cup game, and if it isn't, you're doing something wrong. No, it's an opportunity for Alex DeJohn. It would have been an opportunity for Bobby Shuttleworth, but now I think it is by default. Mm-hmm. Could be an opportunity for Jackson Conway. Could be an opportunity for one of the twos players to mix in, but I don't think Gonzalo Pineda came into the season and looked at the Open Cup and said, I'm going to completely rotate my group, but he might end up rotating more than he thought he would because of the situations that have presented themselves to him.
Well, again, we've talked about this a couple times. I think you have an opportunity tonight to, like you mentioned, Alex DeJohn, which I think is a really good example of someone who's kind of locked on the first team right now, but locked out of minutes because Campbell and Robinson and Alan Franco have played so well. But you're going to need Alex DeJohn at some point during the MLS season, and maybe sooner rather than later. So you want to be able to get him a game. Ronald Hernandez is another player who I think falls into that category right now. Someone who was playing for the first team. Brooks Lennon has played a lot better. It's kind of squeezed Ronald Hernandez out a little bit. I think you have an opportunity to play a Ronald Hernandez tonight. but then again, you look at it up top, and let's put the center forward discussion off to the side for a moment. Luis Araujo's only played 40 minutes on the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he's like 100% 90 minutes fit. And someone on the Twitch pitch points out, Christopher Abel, about the subs tonight. And that is something to keep in mind as well. But look, I mean, I want to get the attacking group a little bit of confidence here because they've done a great job the last 2 weeks of creating chances, and they just have not been able to put the ball in the back of the net. I look at this match tonight as an opportunity to maybe get Marcelino Moreno a little bit of confidence. Get Luis Araujo, if he was lacking for confidence, he might not be, but get Luis Araujo a chance to build some confidence. Get Thiago Almada a chance to continue to grow some chemistry with this team. And I think that opportunity exists tonight. You also, by the way, have an opportunity to do the same with Tyler Wolff and Jake Mulroney. Wolff suddenly has found himself a little bit outside of the first choice after playing, I thought, pretty well first couple league matches. Jake Mulroney is someone who just in the numbers game right now, the Atlanta United roster, has had a little bit of trouble finding his way into a lot of minutes with the first team. So you could accomplish the same goal with them too. Really, and then you could even go further down and say, hey, look, Eric Centeno, this might be the best opportunity we get to play with the first team for a while. Let's do it tonight. Or a Noah Cobb, or a Robbie Mertz, or an Aiden McFadden, who played a little bit, a very, very tiny bit in Colorado. It really could go a lot of different ways tonight. And it will be very, very interesting to see what Pineda's philosophy is, because as Pineda has said publicly, he's very keen on winning this tournament. So you've got to put together a group that's going to get you a win tonight, first and foremost.
Yeah, it's tough because there's not a clear-cut answer in what you do here. I think when we had the chance to talk to Gonzalo on Friday before the weekend's game, I asked him about the Open Cup, and they didn't know at that point what they would do. And he also didn't know that you were going to lose your goalkeeper and a couple days later. But you didn't know, he didn't know what he was going to do because of Araujo coming back and Heinemann coming back, and the likelihood that both could see the field on Saturday, which they did, and then what would be needed after that, and one of the things that Gonzalo's talked about a lot that I don't know why it's not a bigger story, or at least being talked about more. I've been talking about it, and I think it's really clear on some of the issues or mistakes that have happened. You've had to have a different lineup in every game. And not just the forward, not just Araujo, not just that front four, but the back line too, the midfield with Alonso and with Josechu. You've had to change it up every single time. And it's really hard to be dialed in with chemistry, to be dialed in with a rhythm when the lineup's different every single game. And this could have been an opportunity to give guys minutes to build that continuity. But you also turn around, you go to Fort Lauderdale in a few days, and you got to win that too. And what's the balance? And that's the tough part. Do you try to go first choice with a couple of exceptions? Do you heavily rotate and have guys off the bench with the first choice? One thing to keep in mind tonight that's different than an MLS game. You do have 5 subs, but you only get an 18-man game day roster. Mm-hmm. You get 20 in MLS. So that's a little thing to play with here. You'll have one goalkeeper on the bench, obviously, and then field players to fill out the other 7 spots. So you got to think, all right, I've got 5 subs. I've got 6 guys to work with. So I kind of need to know what I'm going to do with that coming in. And you have to have a couple of backup plans if somebody gets hurt, if somebody gets red carded, if I got to change the tactics. So it's not easy. Like it starts from who are the 18, then who's the 11, and how many changes do you want to make going into this game. And I don't know if he had the answers when he spoke to the media Monday yet about that, because it's a really difficult situation, because you want to get guys minutes, but you gotta think about Miami, but you got to think about getting the win here. It's a lot to balance.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that also comes into play when you're selecting this team tonight, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but to me, it feels a little bit different going Wednesday to Sunday as opposed to Wednesday to Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think that might unlock some more possibilities for some first choice guys to play tonight.
Oh, I think there's a lot of first choice guys playing tonight. First off, like I definitely think. I mean, we go through it. Like left back. If it's Caleb Wiley instead of Andrew Gutman tonight, if you give Gutman a rest because he's played every minute so far, that's not really a drop off.
No, it's not.
That's not anything to say like, oh, they're punting the game.
No.
I think Alex DeJohn plays because he hasn't played with the first team yet, and you're gonna have to pair him up with probably Campbell, but maybe Miles. I mean, it's going to be one or the other, right?
Yeah, because I don't suppose Alan Franco can play.
No, and if there's any question, if he was day to day on Saturday, I don't think you turn him out here. You'd rather let him sit and be available for Sunday. So one of your two starting center backs, because I'd consider Campbell a starter. He started every game but one this year. So, yeah, he's a starter at this point. Right back, if you play Hernandez over Lennon, he started the first half of the year. So it's another guy with a lot of starts, but maybe not first choice right this minute. The midfield's where it gets interesting because you don't, with Alonso out, with Sosa back, you've got one true six. You probably won't play Campbell there because if you, for example, if you start Campbell at center back and Miles is your center back on the bench, okay, you don't want to play Miles in the back and Campbell at the six and not really have a true center back on the bench. You don't want to do that. So does Sosa turn out again? Probably, unless you want to play SDH there as the six, which he's done, but he's not as strong there. I think he's more of an 8. The rest of the midfield, I mean, I think Emerson will probably play if things came out of Saturday well, which I haven't heard that they didn't. The forward line, this is where it gets really tricky for me, Mike, and you touched on it. Like, do you want to play Almada and Moreno for 45, for 60, for as long as they need to play together? Do they have that in them? Can they do that and then go in Fort Lauderdale? Was it good to get them that time? Because I don't think Araujo is going to be able to play as much as them, but then how much can he play? And can you get those three together for a while tonight?
Yeah. And one of the suggestions I've seen from a couple different people on the Twitch pitch, and I don't think it's a bad idea. Look, Chattanooga, obviously, they are not as deep as Atlanta United just in terms of pure numbers on their roster right now.
Not at all.
The thought of being able to sub on Almada and Araujo against exhausted center backs in like the 75th minute is really enticing. And that might be enough time to accomplish the objective if the goal is to just build a little bit of chemistry and build some confidence as far as finishing is concerned. The other thing, too, it scares me just a teeny bit. When you have a high-quality player like an Almada or an Araujo going up against a side that obviously does not have nearly as much professional experience, you do wonder, is the door going to be open to some fouling?
Yeah, some hard fouling, yeah.
Right, a hard fouling, right. And do you want to expose your players to that kind of risk? And no game is ever going to be 100% risk-free. No. And I don't think that's going to be the mindset of Pineda, but it's just one thing stuck in the back of my head. I don't want to see anyone get hurt tonight.
If this was Chattanooga in the past, I would be right there with you and worried about that because I know this club's development. I was at their first game in PSL in 2009. I know what they've come from and what they've turned into. They have a very good coach in Rod Underwood, and he wants to play. And going back and watching the game against Memphis in the Open Cup, Memphis was the better team. Memphis is a more resourced team than Chattanooga. They have players with more pedigree. But Chattanooga didn't resort to fouling. They didn't sit back and bunker. They pressed, and they created goals out of their press. They're going to try to play. I don't see – will you see fouls in the game? Sure, but I think it'll be more of the tactical variety than the anger, kick somebody variety. I think previous Chattanooga teams, I would worry about that because they were very physical, and that's how they were built to try to win in the NPSL. This one is built to try to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll play the game the right way, too.
Yeah, they will. They'll get outmatched. And that's something they're going to have to deal with because they're a team that wants the ball, but you're not going to have the ball against a better team. They found a way against Memphis. They got an early goal off a mistake that they created through pressure. They got more goals in the first half. They held on. They frustrated Memphis. They defended well all over the field. They've got a couple of interesting guys. Ian Cerro in the midfield player I like. He's a real technical midfielder. He spent some time in Argentina in the 3rd division there. He's an interesting player. He's good. They've got some speed up top. Brett Jones and Taylor Gray are both fast, and that works for them defensively, but also works for that ball over the top when they do hit it. So this isn't a walk for Atlanta. We saw it last night with cup sets. It's not a walk, but there's a big gap in quality here, and Atlanta has to be locked in, whatever 11 it is and whatever 18 it is. They've got to be locked in and match the intensity that Chattanooga is going to bring.
Yeah, and I think they will. I really do. I thought the remarks coming out of training yesterday, or maybe it was I think it was yesterday. My days are running together right now. Were really, really good. It did seem to be very much locked in and focused on tonight and not Sunday, which was good to hear. It can be very natural to look past a match like this. I did not get the impression that this team was doing it. So I think they'll be in the right mindset. But again, if you're playing guys like DeJohn and Wiley and Hernandez, Sadich potentially, although Sadich he's been a fixture with the first.
He's been pretty much a starter too.
Yeah. But, again, some of those players who might really be relishing and valuing the opportunity to play, I think you will get a lot of strong mental focus from that playing group tonight, and they'll be ready. And to no playoff NASCAR, and I agree with the handle, very good. Chattanooga played close to first choice at Valley City last Friday. Well, they really don't have enough to put together like a full second choice group.
Yeah.
So it is brutal travel. Brutal travel. I mean, to go from Arizona on when do they play? Saturday? Friday. That I assume they're flying commercially.
Yeah.
A flight from Phoenix to Chattanooga, you're probably connecting somewhere. Yeah, they probably lost a whole day to travel on Saturday, and exhausting travel at that. It is tough. But this is Chattanooga's Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
This is their Super Bowl. They will be up for this match in a way they've probably never been up for a match before. In the same way, guys, that, a side that I thought really accounted for themselves very, very well back in January was Georgia Revolution. A team that really was just kind of getting started when they came into that match in Athens against Atlanta United, just kind of getting started. And they took an initial shockwave in the first 10 minutes, and then I thought they played really, really well. Again, you talk about mental focus and desire, like they had it. Georgia Storm is another example of that kind of closed-door friendly that they played a couple days before that. Georgia Storm came into the training ground, again, very, very, very early in their season and perhaps still out of fitness, and they went in and they played really respectably against Atlanta United and gave Atlanta United a great game. And I think it's going to be the same tonight for Chattanooga, even more so. Chattanooga's not coming in here for moral victories. They're coming in here to pull a cup set.
Yeah,
and
it's not a preseason friendly. I think the key is what Atlanta did in those games. They started fast. They started intensely. They got early goals. That's what you have to do in these games. You let them hang around, or you let them get an early goal like they did against Memphis. You're going to be in for a night where you're going to suffer. You get an early goal and grab control of this, and then they've got to run uphill for 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They can account for themselves well, but they can go home and be out of the tournament. That's what you're looking for. Early goals, early intensity. You got to grab control of this thing early, set the tone.
Yeah, totally agree. And we'll see. Again, I think I feel very confident about this match tonight, but I will be very, very curious to see how Pineda sets the team up. Just because we don't have experience with Pineda yet in a U.S. Open Cup situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he would like to be closer to first choice than maybe he actually will be, just because of what he's had to deal with and where guys are. That's kind of my gut feeling on it, but we'll see. He also believes in the young guys too, and he will not have a problem with Wolf, with Wiley, with Conway playing significant roles. I don't think he'll be worried about that if that's the direction he goes because of what he needs to do here.
Yeah. And just real quick before I go, a couple people asking me about Charlotte Greenville tonight. I really, really think Greenville is going to give Charlotte a tough game.
That's a
tough game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I would be very, very nervous if I were one of the Charlotte players who had to go on the road and play in that emotional match tonight. What is most likely for a cup set tonight? I don't know if it's that, but I think that is one I'm going to have a very close eye on tonight as we're calling action at the fraction, because it will be a very, very intense emotional matchup there.
Possible cup sets tonight, in my opinion. FC Motown at Rochester, New York would be a cup set. That's an amateur team against a MLS Next Pro. Forward Madison hosting Minnesota.
Yeah.
When the lower division team gets to host, that adds more chaos. Greenville, Charlotte, same thing. And I don't think Charlotte is as deep as some of the other MLS teams that have turned to second choice. I think if Charlotte does, they don't have an MLS Next Pro team either. So you're going to be maybe turning some guys out here who haven't played this season. We'll see how that goes. Orlando hosting Tampa Bay, because Tampa Bay is really good, and that's a kind of nasty rivalry. San Antonio hosting Austin. RSL's at home against Northern Colorado, a D3 team. Why do you think that's a potential cup set?
Well, didn't you say that Mastroeni said that he was going to play a lot of the kids?
That would be it, but they've got a second team that some of these kids have been playing with, so I'm not as worried about it in their case, but he's going to be playing a younger team. LAFC Orange County, depending on what Steve Cherundolo turns out lineup-wise. Orange County is the defending USL championship winners, and they've got Kubo Torres scoring goals.
Yeah.
So maybe. There's a few potential cup sets.
Yeah, and again, I have my eye on Charlotte Greenville. I think that's going to be a lot of fun tonight. We'll see. It's a fun tournament. It's a really fun tournament, and chaos can happen.
Wasn't fun for Chicago last night.
No. In a way, though, there was a little bit of Schadenfreude in that one because Chicago came in here in 2018 and ruined our day.
Yeah.
So I guess payback 4 years later.
Payback via Omaha.
Yes.
Via Omaha. Yeah, but fair play to Omaha.
Oh, no, it was great for them. That was fun.
Fair play to the Miami FC. I thought for playing Inter Miami. Really tough last night.
Yeah, they played him pretty well.
So we'll see.
Detroit knocking off Columbus. Caleb Porter doesn't do post-match pressure.
Didn't have to one. There was no obligation to do one. You don't have the same obligations that you do in LS. But yeah, Caleb Porter would not speak to the media outside of the stadium after losing Detroit on 2 penalties. So it's the Cup. It could get crazy. It could get weird. We'll see what Chattanooga brings to the table. Where can people hear us tonight?
We're on 92.9 The Game tonight. We'll be on at 7 o'clock for the pre-match show. 7:30 will be the kickoff. And don't forget, we will preview Action at the Fraction at 2 o'clock this afternoon on Stoppage Time on Twitch and the 92.9 The Game Facebook page. And once more, if you get some time, just hashtag Action at the Fraction. Let's get it going. Do it for the Colonel, okay? Jason, is the Colonel like your burner account?
No, I can't do the show and
really hurt and disappointed if that were the case. But
no, I can't do both.
Okay, all right. Well, anyhow, I look forward to seeing you guys tonight for some Action at the Fraction, and we'll talk to you on Stoppage Time. Okay.
See ya.
All right, Action at.
I did not cut him off. He did that to himself. Man, so over the top. So over the top with the action at the fraction. Good grief. I don't know what other teams are doing radio-wise, Chris, in terms of Open Cup. We asked and asked and asked, and I did it in 2019, and we did the games in 18 on the radio. We begged and begged and begged in 19, and we didn't get the opportunity to do it. And then when the tournament came back, we started asking from the day it was announced and the day the draw was announced for the first round and the second round and the third round. And I know Phoenix did some local radio for games. Saw that in the last round. And I don't know if other MLS teams have or have not, but we are, because we have begged and begged and begged to get to do it, because one, we're also really lucky that the team wants us to do it and has put forth the effort to have us do it, which is awesome, because it's very easy to say, nah, it's not worth the trouble, whatever. They've committed to it, and they've committed to us doing it. So I think it adds a lot to it. I think it's important. I think it's why some MLS teams struggle to sell these games and make it a big deal to their fan base, because they don't treat it the same as other games. That's not what we've tried to do. Now, I know the venue is different, but that creates an opportunity, in my opinion. I think that's much more of a positive than a negative, because, yeah, it's smaller, but you're also closer. It's a very cool vibe at Kennesaw when it's full and it's loud. It has a wonderful atmosphere. I love it. So I hope it is a good crowd tonight. And Chattanooga is going to have a lot of people here. This is not going to be Charleston coming to town. Not at all. Chattanooga in the NPSL traveled well and would show up in large numbers in McDonough against Georgia Revolution, and at Silverbacks Park against the Silverbacks Reserves and all of that. So there's going to be Chattanooga fans in the building, loud and supporting their team. Atlanta United is going to need that same support. It's a big deal. Thanks y'all talking about radio, how important it is and all that. I really appreciate it. I mean, we do what we do and we love what we do. And I think there is a good bit of value in what we do. And the team does too, which is the best thing, because they let us keep doing what we do. And they want us to do it for games that they could easily just say, nah, don't worry about it. And that's never been the approach, which has been great. So, have had great success, Niall, at Kennesaw. In first team games at Kennesaw, they have never lost. 7 wins. In Open Cup games against lower division teams, you've only had 1 loss in 2017 against the Miami FC, who's out of the tournament now. And we don't talk about how that loss happened. We burned that one from our memories. And you have the loss in 2018 against Chicago at the Benz, not in Kennesaw. So it's a great opportunity tonight. It's a great opportunity for some players to change their spot in the depth chart with good performances. Chattanooga's not going to come in here and lay down. They are, it's a bigger gap, in my opinion, than Omaha and Chicago, for example. I think USL League One is further ahead than NISA in terms of the Division III pro leagues. It's further ahead than MLS Next Pro right now, your Rochester and St. Louis City teams, although St. Louis City's pretty good. League One, Tormenta went to Birmingham last night. They didn't care. They outplayed Birmingham pretty much for the whole 90. Omaha went to Chicago, played straight up with the fire, got a late extra time equalizer, and then won on penalties. I mentioned Ezra Hendrickson, and I want to get into news really quick before we finish with questions and such. And we'll get deeper into Chattanooga, Atlanta on stoppage time at 2:00. But if you guys have questions specifically about that, we'll take them. You got questions about other possible cup sets or other games in Open Cup, we'll take them. Questions about DC and Aaron Lasada, we'll take them. We'll talk about that. But news, in case you missed it from last night, it was a former Ivy League player of the year last night, John. That's correct?
Defensive player of the year, yes.
Defensive player of the year. And it's Alex Touche. 122nd minute. Ezra Hendrickson, not happy. Said the team wasn't intense enough, didn't play fast enough, felt like the team was too casual. Frankly, this is a quote, I'm pissed off. Because the team that we're trying to build here, and it doesn't matter who's on the pitch, I don't think tonight we displayed Chicago Fire soccer. Okay. the team that he put on the pitch in the first half was incredibly young. Incredibly young. And not guys who've had a whole lot of experience at any level this year. Super young. So, like, I get that. I understand what he's saying. But is that a fair expectation? I don't know that it is. And then when he made his subs, he brought on Victor Becerra in the 77th. He brought on Ivanov and Navarro and Shabilko in the 90th. And then he brought on Miguel Angel Navarro in the 105th. That was all of his options on the bench. He didn't have another field player on the bench. He went with 17. I get it. I know what he's saying. The intensity wasn't there from them at times. They weren't clinical at times, but I was a little surprised at how hard he went at his players who were not all first choice. I don't know how that's going to go over in the long term. We'll see. New coach. That was aggressive, in my opinion. Detroit City came back to beat Columbus 2-1. 2 penalties from Maxi Rodriguez. Columbus had a penalty for Jossie Zardes. Caleb Porter did not speak to the media after the match. He did not have to, but he declined to do so. A few players did. Tormenta went to Birmingham. They controlled it. They won 2-0. They outplayed Birmingham at Birmingham Southern College. Interesting venue for the Open Cup. Didn't go very well for Birmingham Legion at all. Let's see what else we got. Per Doug McIntyre of Fox, Carlos Vela contract extension is, quote, as good as done. He would stay as a designated player. I don't know how long the extension would be. That's going to be the question here with Vela, but at least at the end of the year, looks like he's going to stay, and it's not going to open up another designated player spot for them. They've got one open because of the Rossi deal getting finalized. Miami's won 3 straight in all competitions as they defeated the Miami FC 1-0. Campana goal. They host Atlanta on Sunday, and they are trying to win 4 in a row for the first time in club history on Sunday. CONCACAF Champions League final, it starts next week. Pumas fans, first leg, they've sold it out. Took about 15 minutes. Around 60,000 at the Estadio Olímpico Universitario. Seattle, for the second leg, has already sold out the lower bowl. They've started selling tickets in the third deck. There were around 45,000 tickets already sold. So this will be the most attended 2-legged final in CCL history. Very cool. Very, very cool to see. We've got some rumor and innuendo. I mean, nothing crazy in Europe right now as we get closer to silly season. Lacazette's contract is running down at Arsenal. He said he's talking to other clubs. Arteta wants him to focus on Arsenal. Duh. Newcastle tried to sign Brentford striker Ivan Toney. They wanted Darwin Nunez. They're not going to get Darwin Nunez because he wants to go to a Champions League team if he leaves Benfica. Understandable. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio, Manchester United are interested. He would fit what Erik ten Hag wants to do, I think. That makes sense. Villa wants less money to be paid for Felipe Coutinho. They're going to try to play hardball with Barcelona, who needs cash. Again, logical. All makes sense. Lazio, Juve, and Milan all interested in Jorginho from Chelsea. Contract expires at the end of next season, and they're probably not going to extend it when he's 31 at that point. Could he go to Italy? Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that. Are they going to be able to pay a transfer fee that Chelsea would want to take to let him go a year before his contract is up? That part I don't know. Rumors about Mesut Ozil coming to NLS, and LAFC and Miami are the ones who are being linked because they got designated player spots open. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it at all. I don't think that's going to happen. He's out of the picture right now in Turkey. Got into an argument with the head coach at Fenerbahce. The head coach is the interim coach. Argument happened last month after a league match, and Fenerbahce has suspended Mesut Ozil because of the argument. And now Ozil's friends are telling people that his future could lie in MLS. That feels about as tenuous as you can possibly get. Inter beat Milan 3-0 in the Coppa Italia semifinal second leg yesterday. Total control. Not a good day for Nicolifi's Milan. A good day for Lautaro Martinez. He had a couple of goals in that one. Very bad day for Manchester United. 4-0 to Liverpool. 9-0 on aggregate in the two matches with Liverpool this season. And this is the stat of the day, week, month, all time. In Manchester United's league history, this predates the Premier League. This is ever in league play. Manchester United has only suffered a combined heavier aggregate loss to a team one time in their history. 11-0 to Sunderland in 1892-93.
Wow.
As I was trying to type that stat, my fingers would not let me go 1892. They kept typing 1982 because I'm not used to citing stats from 1892.
Oh, man.
Gah. Just horrible. Mo Salah went off. Liverpool went off. Manchester United's just bad. Fulham's back in the Premier League. Mitrovic, 40 goals this season. That's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be able to do that in the Premier League? He didn't last time. We'll see. Is he a yo-yo? Like Fulham's a yo-yo right now. We'll see. But they are back, and you can probably already pencil them in as a team that people will say will go back down.
Correct.
For next year. I mean, that's kind of where they are. Can they build on this? We will find out. That's your news of the day. What do we got on the Twitch pitch?
Well, a couple of other news and notes, odds and ends.
Okay.
Arminia Bielefeld has parted company with coach Frank Kramer and assistant coach Ilya Gruev. Marco Kostman will be our head coach until the end of the season. That's quoting Arminia from a couple of hours ago. Burns says that is not good or not looking good for George Bello and Arminia Bielefeld.
Oh, I mean, it's just not good because you fired your coach, and coach was at some degree involved in bringing Bello in and talking about bringing him in and bringing him along the way that you want to. So now Bello's got to impress somebody else. It could be good or bad. But it's always unstable when you are brought in by a coach and that coach is then let go.
Tommy Scoops with a couple of things this morning. Tom Bogert said that Orlando City have completed the signing of Argentine winger Gaston Gonzalez from Union.
That thing has been lingering out there for months. We talked about it, I want to say in like January or December, and then it got pushed back to maybe late in the Copa de la Liga while the MLS window was open. So they've completed it now. Are they going to bring him in now or in the summer?
That's the hook in all of this. He suffered a long-term knee injury in what was reported to be his final game with CA Union. Awful timing. Cesar Luis Merlo reports that Orlando Union and Gonzalez's agent will meet soon about the next steps, and that's been posted in the last half hour.
Jeez. Because, I mean, it had been talked about them bringing him in. Then it sounded like Union didn't want to let him go yet, and it sounded like Orlando was okay with that. And then I guess they were about to bring him in, and now it's not going to happen, or at least not happen on the field right now. That's awful. That's awful stuff. We'll see what happens. He's a talented one. He's a good player. I liked that link, but eek.
Bartimus Prime with one of the questions that was tied to a news item from the Chicago loss last night. And how about the Chicago Fire players, by the way, trying to get into a fight with the Union Omaha folks as the Omaha players were waving at the Fire supporters as they were leaving?
SAWFT. Soft.
Mm-hmm.
That's weak. That's weak sauce.
Bart was asking the thoughts on the dual nationalism panic with Gaga Slonina posing with the Polish men's national team manager, and does this force Greg to bring him to Qatar?
Shouldn't have to force him. I would say right now that Gaga Slonina should be considered to play in Qatar. I'm not lying. I don't know where Stefan's at in August. I don't know where Turner's at in August. I don't know if they're sitting a bench. If they are, Slonina has every opportunity to compete with Horvath, because I don't want to see a goalkeeper who's not playing in those games. I don't want to see that. It's got to be somebody who's playing. The other guys might be better. If Berhalter makes moves like that based off dual national panic, he's being incredibly short-sighted. I think Slonina should be competing to potentially be in goal on the first game. I really do. And that's what I would be saying to him. Like, that conversation should be had. It shouldn't be about the dual national panic. It should be, hey, you know where Zach Steffen is. You know his situation. We don't know where it is in the fall. You know what Matt Turner is about to go into. You have every opportunity to win the job. And if you continue playing at the level you're playing at right now, you will be in goal in CONCACAF Nations League play here coming up. I'll see. That's in June. So let's see. That would tie him. You play him in Nations League, that would tie it. I wouldn't do it out of a short-sighted thing of dual national, because I think that stuff blows up in your face eventually when you just play guys in games to tie them to you, and you're not actually going to play them going forward. That comes back to bite you. But right now, he has every opportunity to potentially start in Qatar, in my opinion. I think he should be. So we'll see.
Bart follows it up by saying our best, in quotation marks, 3 might not be starting for their clubs in November.
Yeah.
But guys like Sean Johnson and Slonina will be.
Yeah, Slonina, I mean, the thing you do when you want to go long-term with it, and I don't think you do it purely because of dual national, but when you think of, all right, they're in a group they can get out of, they're in a group they should get out of. I think Slonina doesn't hurt you dramatically if you play him at all. I think Slonina is a good player. But if you play him in this World Cup and then he gets 4 more years to grow, and then he's your starter in 26, when you will have bigger expectations, man, I like where that is. I really like that idea.
Yeah, Tofka was in line with you, saying that Steffen and Turner will age out by 2030 guarantees. And so if you have Slonina as a part of the discussion with 26, all logic points to calling him in now and getting him incorporated.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the counter to that, though. And when you think, long term, you do have to think long term. I think that's important, but you can't be too focused on the long term either, because you need to go and have a good performance in this tournament. They should get out of the group. So you don't play a player purely for 26 in this tournament and sacrifice this tournament. I think it is really truly down to the fact that Turner might not be playing, Steffen might not be playing, and then you're talking Ethan Horvath, who might not be playing, although he has gotten the job here as of late at Nottingham Forest, and Sean Johnson, and pull 4 or 5 other guys that you can put into a group and say who's best. Slonina might be the best one out of that group. He might win it just purely because he might be the right guy right now.
Former intern and host Niall says that the goalkeeper position is the most uncertain for the men's national team as they enter Qatar.
I think the number 9 is the most uncertain, because I don't know who it is. And it's different. Because if Zach Steffen and Matt Turner go to a place where they're starting in the fall, they will be the starter, and one of them will be the starter in Qatar. If they don't, then they won't. I think that's easy. Like, if it's Steffen or it's Turner, I do think they're ahead of Horvath and Slonina and the rest right now. But if they don't go somewhere, then it's a little more chaotic. I think forward is the one, because I don't know who's the starter up top in Qatar. I have no idea. And you got a lot of time for somebody to get hot. You got a lot of time for somebody to lock down that job. But right now, I have no idea. No clue.
Back to Atlanta United, the Airborne DJ has a programming question about tonight. He says, is the game anywhere else but the Plus? It doesn't appear that way.
It's only the Plus. It's only the Plus. All the Open Cup games are on the Plus. That's the only place it is. They got exclusivity on that.
Hard-hitting question from Pilgrim. Does Pineda change his coffee selection for the Open Cup tonight?
I don't think so. I think he's pretty consistent. He drinks a lot of coffee. He loves his coffee. He's always got coffee. No, I don't think he's a guy who mixes up his coffee. When you drink that much coffee and you're a regular at the coffee bar, when you're a regular at the coffee machine at the training ground, when you are a connoisseur of the coffee, I don't think you get creative on the coffee for a game. Not at all. I don't know what it is, Pilgrim. I don't know what type he prefers. That's the hard-hitting questions we got to ask him. But I don't think he mixes it up here.
Michael Head, getting back to Open Cup, big ups to Tormenta for what they did last night. Well done. And I think it's a signature win for them. It's a second signature win in a row, considering that they've knocked off Charleston in the round previous And then you go to Birmingham Southern. It's probably going to be the last time the Legion play at Birmingham Southern from last night. You got 2 signature wins, and now you're heading to the round of 32.
Yeah, I mean, Tormenta has built a team that I think they haven't built in the past. They have added a significant upgrade in talent, in my opinion. And look, when this happens, when you're going into a new stadium and you got I think the forecast of more revenue coming in pretty quick, it's a little bit easier to spend, So they've got a good roster, and they went out and they controlled a game against Charleston, and they controlled a game against Birmingham Legion. And that was a first choice Birmingham lineup. They controlled it. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't it was a hit and hope. It was a set piece. It was a weird penalty. No, Tormenta were the better team. So really, really impressive. You don't want to see them in the next round. Now, to remind everybody, there's no guarantee that the winner of tonight, Atlanta and Chattanooga, plays Tormenta. They re-rack the regional setup on Thursday based off who advances and the 8 MLS teams coming in, and it's a new draw on Thursday. So we will know that at that point. It's not you play the other team in your group, because you have some 6-team groups in this one right now. So that's where it stands.
Another quick piece of news out of sport business, and Ricky Ricardo reminded me of it this morning because I had it in one of my tabs. The Florida Cup organizers have created a separate series to expand the tournament across the United States. It looks like Orlando City is going to play Arsenal on July 20th. And
that's done. Yeah, that's announced.
Arsenal and Chelsea are going to play July 23rd at Camping World Stadium as a part of the Florida Cup.
Yeah, those are official. What it looks like is Chelsea will play Charlotte in Charlotte, and it looks like Chelsea will play, I want to say it was Club America, in Vegas, right?
Right.
So those are the ones that it looks like. The Chelsea-Arsenal match and the OC-Arsenal match are booked. Those are officially announced.
So you add that to your very, very busy summer of soccer there in late July if you want to head down to Florida or to Vegas or to Charlotte to catch up matchups too. So it'll be pretty good. I know that you're going to be getting into this more with Mike at stoppage time at 2 o'clock. And once again, reminder for the Twitch pitch, if I've missed a question, which I'm fairly sure I have, send it in here in the final couple of minutes and we'll talk about it. Yes. Burned philosophically about the match tonight. Play the second string guys at the start. Bring on the ringers in the 60th. If you're not up by 2, you bring in Almada Moreno Arujo after 60.
I don't know how rigid you set that thing up. I think what will throw that off is Araujo and his availability and or need to be saved for Miami, and same for Heineman, because those are 2 guys that if you decide you need to get them minutes, then you need to get them a certain amount. You don't have them as possibilities or bring them here or bring them there. Like you might need to get Luis 45, and then you say, okay, we're going to play somebody for the second 45 or the first 45, and you decide there. Heineman may be the same thing. I don't know. You also want to get guys in other position groups together. So again, it kind of goes back to the 18-man game day roster where you don't have quite as much flexibility to bring in there. What do you do? My gut feeling, and this is purely a gut feeling, I don't know, because last time I had the chance to talk to Pineda was on Friday, and he didn't know at that time. He wanted to get through Saturday and figure it out. But my gut feeling is Shuttleworth in goal, Wiley on the left, Campbell and DeJohn as center backs. They've played together with the twos in the past. And Hernandez at right back. Then my gut feeling is Sejdic in the midfield. I'd love to see Robbie Mertz. That has not been announced. No other players have been announced as from twos playing with the first team tonight. So right now that's not possible. But I'd love to see Sejdic, because then you start to think, okay, if Heineman doesn't play here, can he then give you maybe 45 to 60 on the weekend? If Sejdic plays here and he can't give you 90 on the weekend, but then Sosa could give you 90 on the weekend, and you start projecting what the lineup could look like there, and you manage minutes. I think Sejdic is the one who plays here as a deep lying player. You could play Wolf as an 8. I think Pineda likes him as an 8. You could do that. You could play Heineman if you're going to get him more minutes, but I'm thinking maybe it is Sadich, it is Wolf, barring Robbie Mertz being available. And I would absolutely consider Mertz being available here and playing because I think that'd be a good pairing. So that's your two holding. Let's say it's Wolf as an 8 who's going to get forward when he can, but he can drop when he has to. Sadich is the 6. Then you're going with a front 4. Jackson Conway up top for me. Araujo, if he can give me 45, I'm going to start with him because I want that intensity straight out of the gate. And you go back to those preseason games against lesser competition like the Revs and the Storm, and Luis Araujo was the one who looked like a house of fire to start those games. I'd start him if he can only give me 45. If he can get me to 45, he's starting for me. So it'd be Araujo to start. Your other two spots, maybe Mulraney and Almada, and I might have to split the difference with Almada and Moreno, or vice versa, whichever way you want to go. I'd love to see Almada on pulling the strings early and creating against a team like this. That's where I'm at. That's my projected 11. That would be Robbie Mertz. I would love to see Robbie get the opportunity. I don't know that he will be. Right now, it hasn't been announced that he's even a possibility. So if it's not him, it's Wolf.
A couple of combined ideas. Pilgrim hopes all the guys like Wolf, Conway, and Cisneros can get on the board to build morale, but Michael Head wants to prioritize Sunday over tonight.
Yeah, I would prioritize Sunday too, but I also don't think you punt on this one, and I don't think you have to. You just have to think. Like, it's not an either or. You just have to think. Like when I was just going through it, it's like, okay, if I'm going to sit Sosa and I have him for Sunday, then he's a 90 I'm considering for Sunday. If I play Sadich there, he might not be 90 for Sunday. So then what would I do on Sunday with the team? You know, maybe it is Sosa and Wolf if you bring Mertz up tonight, or maybe it's Sosa and Heineman for 45 if you feel like he's ready for that. And then maybe Sadich can give you 45 on Sunday. That kind of a situation. You have to consider both. But I think too often when we talk about this in leagues around the world, we say it's either or. And I don't think that's it here. I think you look at it and you say a league game, a cup game, I want to win both. How do I win both? And how do I get minutes for some of these guys on my roster that need them in certain ways? And you map it out. You got to think about both, but you don't punt one is where I'm at with it. I don't think you have to in this situation, but you do have to consider. And look, Miami's a tougher opponent. You're on the road. Number one. They're an MLS team. Chattanooga's not. It's a tougher opponent. So you think I'm going to need a little bit tougher lineup against Miami on the weekend. Okay. That's prioritizing, and it's not punting on the other one either. And I think that's what you got to do.
A lot of folks are having conversation about their own lineups and what their thoughts are back and forth, and we love that kind of conversation. Badgermon, basically, it's 4 matches to a cup that qualifies us for a CONCACAF Champions League berth. You have to go for stuff like this.
I think it's more than 4, but still, if it's like 6, it is what it is. Yeah, you go for it. You're at home against a newly professional team. You should go for this. You look at the pedigree of the two teams. I mean, I think at times we get bent out of shape when we say these things, but yes, Atlanta United should go into this match as a gigantic favorite. They're facing a team that is at a much lower budget, that is in a lower level league, that has players who have no MLS experience, no first division experience anywhere. It is what it is. Like, that's real. That's not being mean. That's not being, MLS is best and ha ha ha. That's not any of that. That's reality. Those are facts. So that doesn't mean you can't be upset. That doesn't mean that it's an easy game. But you will walk in the door as the favorite, and you will walk in the door with that expectation that will be heavy on you. Got to deliver. Got to take control early. Look at some of the games last night where I thought the MLS team took control early. LA Galaxy. They got a 1-0 win, but they got that goal somewhat early. Cool. They didn't have to sweat as much. Tormenta took control of that game early, even though they were the lower division team. Inter Miami had to balance some stuff with the Miami FC. They made them work, but I thought Inter Miami was the better team in most of that. DC was the better team. They just couldn't find the back of the net in Rochester in bad weather conditions and just an ugly game. Like DC had control of that the whole way, but it took them a while to actually get the goal. Cincinnati needed to go to extra time. They had to play 30 extra minutes. That's not good, but they win. They got it done. You need the early goal because when you don't get that and you don't get that control, then you got to sweat and go back to the last round. And this is where I think it's important to talk about Chattanooga and what they can do to you. You go back to that game against Memphis 901. First minute goal for Chattanooga. And it's off of a turnover. It's good pressure from Chattanooga. Jones lays it off to Alex McGrath. He finishes. 29th minute, you get another one. It's great set piece delivery from Ian Cedro to the back post. Big save on the back post. Rebound put home. You're 2-0 up if you're Chattanooga in the 29th minute at that point. Now, they give up a goal in the 39th, but then they get one more before the break. And it's another one where it's Cedro with the assist on this one, but it's another quick one. You know, in this game, it was Memphis with 64% of the ball, if I remember right. The majority of the shots, they had the opportunities. Chattanooga, with early goals, was able to be more defensive than I think they generally want to be. They also played a better team. Rod Underwood's come out and said specifically, since taking the job, he wants his team to play. He wants them to be on the front foot. He doesn't want to back off. They might have to back off. They might get backed off in this one. But he wants them to play and play good soccer and try to build out of the back and do the things that he thinks are the right ways to play. He is a very good coach. I'm glad he's getting this opportunity. He came up through Atlanta YMCAs. I don't know which one specifically, but he came up playing in this area. So this is a homecoming for him. You got a couple of players with Atlanta ties on Chattanooga's roster. They're not a deep team. They've played pretty much the same group the whole way. You've got some players with Dalton ties on the Chattanooga roster as well. There's going to be a lot of emotion for Chattanooga in this, whether it's coming from Underwood, whether it's coming from Damian Rodriguez, from Dalton, who won a state championship last year with Dalton. Now he's a pro with Chattanooga FC. Whether it's coming from just being the lower division team, walking in the door, you're going to have a lot of emotion from Chattanooga. How do you deal with that? You grab control of the game early. You match their intensity, which is where I think MLS teams that struggled last night, that's where they struggled. You've got to treat Chattanooga like a threat from the opening minute and don't treat them like a lesser team. Treat them like you would Inter Miami or FC Cincinnati or DC United or the teams you've played lately. And if they do that, Atlanta should win because they're the better team. But if they don't, Chattanooga can come in and ruin your day. It's a bigger stretch for that to happen here. It's maybe the biggest stretch in the round 3 matchups because and no offense to Nisa, I think Nisa is right with MLS Next Pro as the lower 3rd division pro league. So when you talk lower 3rd division versus 1st division, it's the biggest stretch, I think, of matchup in this round of the competition. Doesn't mean cup set can't happen. So, yeah, you dodged a bullet missing Tormenta this round, Kevin. Absolutely you did, because Tormenta is a better team. Tormenta is a more dangerous team. Doesn't mean you can't get hit with that bullet tonight. You've got to take control of this thing early. That's what's important. So we will see where it goes. But stoppage time, 2:00. Any other questions? Sorry, before we
just one more note before
what do we got?
Darren Van Tassel's actually texting me here during the show.
Nice.
And he says, not sure if the guys at the Waffle House in the Borough are talking about us this morning, but that one moved the needle in the U.S. and global soccer world last night.
100% it did. It's a huge one, and they will talk about it in Statesboro, and Savannah and South Georgia across the whole. They will. And that's something that needs to be talked about. And I think Tormenta is getting attention more and more and more on a steady basis. But yeah, you win like you did last night. That's a wake-up call for the rest of the country. It's a wake-up call for whoever gets Tormenta in the next round of, ooh, wow, that's the lower division team we didn't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever gets them next time out, it's going to be a struggle. It definitely will be a struggle.
And he also just sent me some League One news as well. Let's see, really quickly before we go, 4-card, anything less than a win tonight's a disaster. I can live with a draw at Miami.
Yeah, if you get knocked out of the Open Cup to Chattanooga, it's a disaster. Absolutely, it's a disaster. There's no way around that. Disasters happen, but it's a disaster. Yeah, there's no way around it. You get a draw on the road. You win tonight, and you get a draw in Miami on the weekend. That's a good week. You don't win on the road, but you advance in the Open Cup. It's not ideal, but it's not a disaster. You lose in the Open Cup and win on the weekend. It's still somewhat of a disaster because you should be able to rotate tonight and still take care of the business in front of you, I think. And we'll see if they can find the right way to do it. But I think a lot of it is intensity because Chattanooga will bring that tonight and Atlanta has to.
Storm Chaser Kevin, the last thought on the board. He says that this is a 2 versus 15 March Madness game.
In the way that the bracket fell in terms of the matchups, this is a 1 versus 16. Just because it is the biggest gap, in my opinion, in quality. The FC Motown getting through as an amateur, they're playing a MLS Next Pro team. It's a gap, but it's not as big of a gap as this. This is the biggest gap, I think. So we will see what happens.
Largest gap on the board with our juice boxes actually goes to Hartford Athletic at a plus in the composite for information purposes only. Mm-hmm. Just shy of a plus 3,300. Chattanooga is a north of plus 2,600. So Hartford Athletic right now is the largest number on the board.
That's crazy because Hartford's at home against Red Bulls. But anyway, and when you're talking plus 33 and plus 2,600, you're kind of quibbling about the big difference between that. They're both gigantic underdogs. Got to take care of business. We'll talk about how that happens today on stoppage time at 2:00. Be on the lookout on the SDH Twitch. We might try to drop in from the booth in the 5:30, 6 o'clock region for at least a short period of time. Maybe we do it right after the lineups come out. We'll see what we can come up with. We're on the air on radio at 7, so we've got to get out plenty of time for that. But we're going to try to do something from the booth in Kennesaw on the SDH Twitch channel. So be on the lookout. 7 o'clock is pregame coverage on 92.9 on the Odyssey app, on the Atlanta United app, and then after the match, an hour of the full-time report, where we will take you home from Kennesaw with everything that happens tonight. We'll talk about all the other games around the tournament. Yes, it's on ESPN Plus ropes. No, it's not geo-blocked. It's only geo-blocked on ESPN Plus for league games when there is when they have local broadcast, and that's what a league game would. Open Cup does not have local broadcast. ESPN Plus has everything. That's why it's not geo-blocked. It's apples and oranges. It's two different things. So they've got it. I don't know who's calling it for them. They're more than likely going to be based out of Fort Lauderdale, not on site. So we will be on site. We'll be delivering what, John?
Mucha action at the fraction.
Just say your line. You have a line. You have a brand. Mm-hmm. Just do it.
Action.
Don't add something to it.
I was trying to sign off at the same time.
One more time, John. What are we delivering?
At the fraction. Complete action at the fraction tonight with Mike and Jason starting at 7 o'clock, plus the early Twitch.
He's got to study the way to deliver the catchphrase. For a wrestling guy, I think you would be better at this, John. I am disappointed.
Action at the fraction tonight. Be there and make sure that you follow Mike Conti's humble request about having it to be a trending hashtag on the Twitters, please.
Mm-hmm. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.